Letterman Sunny here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And I'd like to wish you all a happy Halloween. To those Halloween has already passed, and to those Halloween is just rather beginning, or it is Halloween night, like it is here. And to apologize for last week. I am so sorry that I did not post the Zitter part as on time as I wanted it to be. I actually had some issues with the internet, and so getting it out there was hard. But I am going to post it this Friday. So be ready and have your Zader mindset in sparkly dazzles. And I would love to wish you all a happy Halloween. This Halloween, I've been thinking about this past couple of months, trying to figure out what to do for you for Halloween. So I decided to tell you my most 3 scariest experiences that honestly at the time, like, it'll be scary for you, but for me, not really. There was one of these stories I was a little bit scared, but after it took some time, like a little bit to sink in, I was like, whatever. So these are my 3 scariest experiences. That one of them is my first story, and in my first story, I was way too young to even remember any of this. I actually heard this from my mom, and the reason why I expect this as my experiences is because I lived with it while my mother was going through this, so it is technically my experience. So when I was real little, we lived in this house on 9th Street, and from what my mom showed me when we were passing by it, it looked like a cute little house. And so while she was telling me the story, there was no way, mind you, my mom doesn't lie, like, at all, unless it's about like birthday gifts or something really important that she thinks that I have no reason to know at that moment, until she figured it out. So when I was younger, we lived in this house, and at the time, from what my mom told me, it was bright yellow and whatever. So while we were living in this house, a lot of our family photos and my mom's individual photos had gone, like with me or with my brothers, had gone missing. And my dad didn't know where they were. I was too young to even, I was too small to even reach where they were. And nobody touched them. And then a few days later, she would find those exact same photos that went missing, like, rather scattered on the scattered on the floor, pasted on the wall, whatever. And it was always her. And the one thing that was different about these photos than when they had disappeared was that it was only her face that was whited out. So, as you guys may have already noticed, that this was a ghost experience. This ghost did not like my mother at all. It did everything it could to piss her off. Like, it moved shit, it whited her out of photos, and it just did everything it could to, like, personally, not physically attack my mom, but indirectly attack her, you know? And I can't really remember on how long we lived at this house, but it's got to the point where my mom was like, I'm done, buddy, we're moving, we're taking the kids, we're packing up our crap, and we're moving. And so we ended up moving away. That may not have been the scariest thing, but from what my mom said, I think she once told me that this ghost, like, even grew things. But it never really attacked my dad or me or anyone else in the family. It was just, like, indirectly targeting my mother. Which, listening to the story was actually pretty scary for me, because I love my mom, and if whatever the heck was it, like, indirectly attacking her had physically attacked her and had gotten her or whatever, I would always be afraid to even imagine what would have happened if we had stayed in that house. Story number 2. This one actually has more detail because in this story I am actually much older, and I was in high school when this happened. So, when I was in high school, like my sophomore year, my mom thought it would be fun to try out this game that she had heard from my grandfather called Rise, Table, Rise. As you guys know, for those who don't know what Rise, Table, Rise is, it's where you and 3 other people gather around a table and put your hand on it. It's kind of like a weird Ouija board, you know? Except you're using your table. So with Rise, Table, Rise, it's a lot differently. It kind of works a little differently than with a Ouija board. With a Ouija board, you can actually ask specific questions, and it would be able to rather say yes, no, or spell out their answers. With Rise, Table, Rise, it's a lot different. It'd be 1 tap for no, 2 taps for yes, and 3 taps for maybe. And you can only ask it yes or no questions. Ask the spirit that you were talking to yes or no questions. And the reason why I bring this one up is because, and I know some of you are all like, oh honey, no, this is a total whammy, this is a sham, this is fake. But I assure you that this is 100% true. And the reason why my mom wanted to try out this game, I don't know why, but what she heard from my grandpa was when him and his friends tried to play the game, they ended up summoning something that they really shouldn't have, and they allowed a type of evil within the home, which ended up lifting the table from the floor and ended up spinning drastically fast in the air. And it didn't stop until my grandpa said a prayer from the Bible. And for those who don't know, I am Catholic, so this was a lot more believable. And so after my grandpa said this prayer, the table fell down to the ground and was silent. So even after knowing the story, I don't really understand why my mom wanted to try this game. So, me being completely open to everything, and actually think that it would be really helpful to speak to the spirits of the past, I volunteered to be one of her little seance people, along with my dad and my older brother Michael. So, here we are. My dad was on My dad was on my right, my mom was on my left, and my brother was right across from me. And here we are, we were playing Rise, Table Rise. And the table went up, and we knew that a ghost had taken up our invitation and was willing to speak to us. And me, I once again think that speaking to the spirits of the past could actually really help not only the spirits to help them move on, but also help us learn on what life was like when they were alive, you know? And so we started asking the ghost yes or no questions, like if you're a girl, if you're a boy, blah, 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 blah. If they were young, if they were old. So the ghost that we were talking to was a young male. And me being weird about this, I thought it was okay to ask where the ghost was. I asked if he was, because my parents asked, so I asked the ghost if he was standing next to me. He said yes. I asked if he was on the left of me. He said no. On the right, yes. I thought this was cool, you know? But I couldn't get over the huge chill that was going down my spine. And when I looked around the table, my mom looked really uneasy. My older brother looked scared. And next thing I knew, my dad was shouting, "Get your hands off the table." So we took our hands off the table, and after that I heard a chuckle in my ear and a hand on my shoulder. And I didn't really say this to my parents at the time, but I did hear a chuckle and I felt a hand on my shoulder. And and at the same time, my mom thought, at the time we knew that my great-grandmother, which on my mother's side was there because the ghost had confirmed that she was there before this all happened. And so from what my mother told me after we had taken off our hands and I felt these experiences, she said that she and Michael both said that they felt my great-grandma's hands on both their shoulders. And Doreen, which is a ghost that follows my dad around a lot, like a protective spirit, protected my dad. So basically, what kind of made this really scary for me at the time was there was a demon. We had accidentally allowed a demon within our home, and he was talking to us, and he revealed where he was, and he touched me, and it kind of scared me a lot more than it should, because it scared me a lot more than it scared my mom, my brother, and my dad, because my mom and my brother were under the protection of my grandmother, and dad was safe because of Doreen. And from what I know of Doreen, she cares literally zero about me, my brothers, and my mom, and only has the protectiveness for my dad and my grandma. My great-grandma protected my mom and my brother, which I am grateful for her, and I understand why her hands were full. that I felt really angry and scared. Scared because I was the only one that had no protection. I had no one was there to keep the demon away from me or anything. And I was angry because even though my grandma had her hands full with my mom and my older brother, Doreen had enough, was actually practically free, you know, because all she had was my dad. It would be one thing if there was a fifth party playing this game, but there wasn't. And she didn't even bother to even try to protect me or help me. So I was sitting there unprotected with a demon on my right side. And I was terrified for about 15 minutes after we had figured out what happened. I was in my room, I was crying. I was silently crying and basically hated everything that happened. But after a little while, and I actually gave it some serious thought, I couldn't help but notice that, yes, I know demons don't really have the power to control you or harm you themselves. Well, they can, but in different types of ways. Even though this demon had this huge advantage to harm me or whatever, he didn't. He just stood there, and even though the rest of the table was scared, all I felt was a tingle. I wasn't terrified until I found out what he was. And I honestly felt that he really meant no harm to me. So if he meant harm to the rest of the table, then I can understand. Now that I think about it, if he meant harm to the rest of the table besides me, I would understand why the two spirits got, my grandma and Doreen, got protective. But I literally felt no ill will towards me or anything when he was touching my shoulder or when he was chuckling in my ear. I felt no ill will. So, and from time to time I can kind of feel that he's somewhere around. He likes to mess with my shit. But, other than that, he hasn't caused me any sort of harm in any way, shape, or form. So, that's always a good thing, kind of. Okay, so time for the third story. The third and final story for this Halloween video. So, this third story, is more of what happened between my high school year and my very much too young to remember year. And I don't know why I just didn't put them in order, but so basically this happened when this was happening when I was in elementary school, and I was me, my mom, and my dad were sleeping in the rooms in the basement. And this house was actually it was very interesting. It had a lot of crevices and stuff, nooks and crannies that I could travel in and hide and whatever. And honestly, like, I thought this house was pretty cool, aside from the fact that I had a lot of spiders and earwigs in my room. And that was mostly because there was a crack in my window that my dad couldn't find, because the window looked insanely intact. So I grew up for a few years during this entire time. I was squishing spiders and earwigs with my little glittery plastic baton. And it stunk like french fries because of the earwig blood. I don't know why I thought it smelled like french fries, but it did. But anyway, back to what was going on. So during the years in this house, I had very much a real hard time sleeping, even with my doll Sprinkles, which was given to me when I was 5 by my parents, was there. I just really couldn't sleep. And so I would stay up most nights, listening to the old floorboards in the house, or watch a little bit of TV, which was in my room, because my mom let me have cable when I was real little. I don't have cable now in my room, but thinking. So one night when it started, I was watching TV and I heard a noise from upstairs, and I thought it was just like the old creaking of the floorboards, you know, just like the house settling in weird ways. But so I just like let it slide and I continued watching TV. But as each night went on and I was still having a very hard time sleeping, I would keep hearing the same kind of creaking upstairs, sounding like footsteps. And once again, instead of like pushing it aside thinking that it was the house settling, I went on to thinking that it was my brothers walking around the house, either going to the bathroom, getting a drink of water, or just doing whatever they were doing upstairs. And then one night I got real curious about the sound, because my older brother Michael was staying the night at my grandparents along with my little brother William, and Kyle went to sleep earlier because he was sick, and my mom and my dad were fast asleep in their room, which was, if you walked out of my room and turned right, there was the laundry room, and if you turned left, there was a bathroom. So, like, my parents were like past the laundry room, and then there was the stairs that went upstairs. So I knew my parents were fast asleep, and I knew my little brother was long gone in dreamland. So when I heard this sound again, I knew it wasn't my parents, I knew it wasn't my brothers, so I decided to inspect. So I sneakily went out of my room and up the stairs with my dogs Bear and Sunny right behind me, because they're weird. Because like when they see me or my mom move in, they go follow. So me and my dogs were upstairs, walking around. I was checking to make sure that all the windows and doors were locked. Checking on Kyle, making sure he was asleep. And I just kept hearing the creaking, and I'm like, what is this sound? So after wandering around the house, I quietly as I could, with the dogs behind me, I had clarified that there was nobody in the house. So I went downstairs, the dogs went back to laying next to each side of my parents' bed. Bear was sleeping on my mom's pile of plushies while Sunny was sleeping at the foot of the bed, or next to Bear. And I just went back to my room, closed the door, got back in bed, and continued watching TV, brushing it off as, once again, the house settling in a very weird fashion. So, but as I started to get real sleepy finally, and I had turned off my TV, so that way I could lay down fully and go to sleep, I noticed that on the light of my wall, right next to me, where the moon shined, there was my shadow, the small thin shadow of the bed, and I noticed that there was a shadow of me, a thin shadow of the bed, and at this point, creaking had stopped. And right where I was getting tired, the creaking had stopped, and I turned off the TV, like I said I did. And as I snuggled myself in, enjoying being gasped into the moonlight, I looked to my wall, seeing the shadow of me, the bed, but the one thing I noticed right away was that there was another shadow. And the shadow looked like it was sitting on my bed, and its head turned straight at me, looking at my shadow. And that's when my heart started beating real fast. And the little me was terrified. And I just bit my lip, holding in my scream when I saw the shadow's arm move up and straight towards my shadow. And the closer its hand drew towards my shadow, the more I started freaking out. I had a little scream squeal coming through my throat, and the minute it was an inch away from my shadow's head, I closed my eyes, shut it tight, and then I just felt something touch my head, give it a slight pat, and then vanished, and then went away. And when I opened my eyes, the shadow was gone. And yeah, those were 3 stories of the 3 scariest experiences that I had either lived through or gone through. And once again, this is all 100% true and 0 bullshit. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and if you guys liked this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and if you haven't yet, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and tap that little bell to get notified of my next video update. or to continue enjoying my comic dubbing or my weird video vlogging randomness. And I hope to see you guys, and I really hope to see you guys in my next video, and I really hope that you guys are super safe this Halloween, especially on what's going on with the world. So stay safe, don't let the monsters get ya, and happy Halloween. Bye.
Your life is done, he took it all with him. So you drink enough for it to wash away the sins. It's